So Dinesh, laws that permit cheating are just as much voter suppression as laws that bar individuals from voting. Well, first of all, permit cheating is no laws permit cheating. And laws that bar individuals from voting are unconstitutional. So we're off to a great start. And but in case you don't know, this is Dinesh D'Souza and his lovely wife Debbie. And we mistakenly believed that she was the sensible one and she might veer him away from his more sort of racist and xenophobic tendencies. No. She creeped the shit out of all of us. Totally. I recognized that I was being positively sexist and that I was assuming that because she was a woman, she would be somewhat more reasonable. No.
I'm here with my better half, the boss, the producer.
Beta male. I'm sorry, but isn't that the case they're always making? Like when Obama was talking about, Michelle in glowing terms. And they're like, oh, this is pathetic. Be a man, right? Oh, God.
We're here to talk about more on Biden and what the
sorry, he's not a moron. You are, but go ahead.
Democrats
please.
are really up to.
Did you say more on Biden or moron Biden?
They worked that out beforehand.
That's actually, I am a punster without even knowing it.
Oops. Okay, I heard moron.
What do you think about this speech that he gives, where we have to fight the Jim Crow of the 21st century?
Yeah.
The Democrats are.
Well, yeah, obviously not. That's ridiculous.
The usual tricks.
Yes, they are. They definitely are. And it is
Tell us,
really,
Debbie.
it's amazing to me how they use a tactic in one aspect and not another.
What?
Because, we were just talking about that this morning, how he feels.
Yeah, we don't know that. We just showed up, and God help us if we're ever in your kitchen.
Like asking for an ID is just horrific. Not to mention, it's not biblical if you're in line and you don't get water or bread. However, that same logic doesn't apply to going to a restaurant and the restaurant asking for a vaccination card, does it?
Yeah, but voting isn't contagious, dum-dum. I mean, this is amazing. Like the logic here is hysterical, but the premise is that basically voting is an infectious disease. They're basically the same.
That they're not going to feed you.
Well,
how unchristian-like.
Muriel.
Well, no, it's kind of Christian to not. I mean, unless Christ shows up and heals everybody, they just don't want people to come in and kill their staff by giving them a communicable disease.
The mayor of D.C. just said, listen, everybody in D.C., you need your vaccine card and you need a valid photo ID.
Okay, there you go. That's racist.
Yeah.
If they say it's racist to do one thing, it's racist to do another thing.
Oh, no. Asking for someone to have an ID or wanting them to have one isn't the racist part. It's keeping them from getting one and charging them money for it. Again, I am for a national ID card, an American ID card. So it's got a stripe on it, just like your driver's license does, but it's got all your information in it. Use it for all your, if you need a digitally tax file at home, you can just slide it through. Use that card. Shit. Yeah, most of us have a thumbprint somewhere. Pop that in there too. And then you could do so much shit from home. Good stuff. But they won't do that because mark of the beast.
Right. And so the point is that it's supposedly voter suppression to require an ID. But it's, is it?
No. It's voter suppression to deny people an ID unless they pay for it. So it becomes a poll tax.
Is it suppressing blacks from flying on airplanes to ask for them for ID at the airport or the bank?
Yeah, you don't have a constitutional right to fly on an airplane. You don't have a constitutional right to drive a car. You have to pass a test to drive a car. A private company, there are no nationalized airlines, fucko. I know you're the ones who keep calling us socialists, but that's what you're clamoring for. You have to have an ID to fly on a plane because it's a private entity.
It only applies to something that can easily be manipulated, if you get my drift. Wink, wink. I can't say.
No, I don't understand. Because everything, I mean, they do this shit with like, buy a gun. Well, owning a gun, you don't need an ID, or you don't even have to show an ID to go, is that your gun? You have a reasonable thing. I'm not violating a crime. You have to prove that first on my own property or what have you. But selling something and using credit or debit or something to do that and needing an ID to do that, that's a private exchange that has nothing. If you want to go pay cash in a fucking field for most things, guns are a bad example, but most other things, you can do it. You don't need an ID. But flying a plane, again, these are all, they keep referencing shit that you don't have a right to. You can travel it. You can travel anywhere you want. You have a constitutional right to go wherever you want to. No one has a constitutional obligation to take you there.
On YouTube or any other,
Yeah. Now, let's talk about what's interesting here about Venezuela is it provided almost
She's by the way, she's from Venezuela, by the way. So that's their whole point.
playbook for the Democrats, right? They voter suppression, and the voter suppression here. People don't realize that one form of voter suppression is if there are laws that prevent you from voting. But laws that permit cheating and permit illegals from voting, people who shouldn't be voting, are also voter suppression, aren't they? Because they cancel out the votes.
They cancel out your vote. And you know what it also causes is when people, and I hate to say this and point that.
You mean like double voting, for example. Now I'm curious about this. Whoops, sorry, 1 second. So I'm curious, these folks in the villages that voted twice, both in Florida and in their home states, that double voted, these folks, did they cancel out a Democrat's vote in Florida or in Connecticut or wherever the fuck they individually did it? Was it all because they spend all their time in Florida? Should this count? To scrape off a vote there? I think both votes shouldn't count because, you committed fraud, you lose your right to do that. But at least one of them was erased to vote, right? So something like this? Is that what you're talking about, Deb?
Out, but a lot of people think that there were some shenanigans in this election, right? So.
Oh yeah. I've heard that there was some shenanigans. Nothing that would change the outcome of the election. But there was definitely some shenanigans. I think that's the back license plate of this vehicle is shenanigans.
When people start believing, and in Venezuela this did happen, people started believing that their vote didn't matter because no matter what they pulled the lever on,
because their particular political leader told them it didn't, and so they didn't show up for elections, and they gave away their vote. Essentially, they got cheated out of their vote that they didn't even cast.
It's actually going to count for the other guy. So they're like, I'm not going to go stand in line and vote if my vote doesn't count. I'm done.
Yeah. Welcome to the Trump 2022 get out the vote plan.
I mean, we know
that's
some of
exactly
that
your
happened
problem.
in Georgia in the in the election
Runoff
in January.
Right.
But
I fucking hell. That's exactly what they're talking about. Trump talked people out of voting. They lost Georgia partly because they were going to lose because the vote trend has been going that way. But the other reason is because a bunch of Trump voters, the maggots, stayed home because Trump told them not to trust the election, and he's still doing it. And he's not going to stop doing it. You think he's going to bitch even like the loudest he's going to bitch this year will be in October of next or in late September.
were discouraged and they felt like my vote's not going to matter.
And that is voter suppression because their vote is.
Yeah, then Trump is guilty of voter suppression. Go clean up your own shit.
They feel like their vote doesn't count.
They're being disenfranchised.
Right?
I don't give a fuck how they feel. Fuck your feelings, right? Isn't it? Facts don't care about your feelings. Oh my God. Right-wing talking point. Hashtag fuck your feelings, right? Isn't that what these assholes were talking about for the last 4 years?
Being disenfranchised. So I think that
It's self-disenfranchisement. How is that our fault? How is that Democrats' responsibility? This is the same shit of like, we had to storm the Capitol and attack cops. An Antifa guy dressed as a MAGA guy said, come on. And I was like, okay.
causes all sorts of issues when you do not conform to a particular way of voting in every state. And that is make sure that your vote counts, but only your vote.
Oh, I see. And now Dum Dum is arguing for a uniform federal system for voting, the exact opposite of what Republicans are trying to do. Congratulations, Debbie Dum Dum. You are for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, I mean, who would participate or watch even a sports game if you believed that the rules were somehow being rigged, right?
Or that
Who gives a fuck? What does that have to do with the game? What does that have to do with anybody but the person? I think this is rigged. You want to watch it? No. I know how it's going to end. You sure? Yeah. I'll bet you $10. All right, now I'm watching. What? What is that?
was already decided. How fun would that be if you watched the Super Bowl and they had already determined who the Super Bowl winner was going to be, and all of the.
Well, I mean, you obviously wouldn't know this because you couldn't. And this is just dumb.
Referees
Jeez,
were all in.
Is America civilized? Everyone about the age of yes, we are, Thule. Yes, we are.
Okay, that's kind of how we feel.
Or in this case, all the referees are actually working for one side.
Right.
You know, in other words, it's not open to question that part of the great infusion of cash that came from liberal billionaires, people like Zuckerberg, got the.
Oh, for fuck's sake. We got more machines in areas where we had this whole big plan set up where we just make it really hard for black areas to vote and we make it real easy for the white areas to vote. That's America. And then and our excuse was, well, we don't have enough money. We got so many machines and we can't afford to fix the good ones, so we got to send the broken ones someplace. Well, how much do you need to fix it? We'd need like $100 million. Here. Fuck. Rats.
State and local governments involved in the election, in effect on the Democratic side. Why? Because they were.
Why? Oh, because they fixed machines and make sure there were plenty. Why were there long lines in Republican areas? Anywhere. Did he pay to stop people from voting in Republican areas? Because if that was the case, like I'll give you $100 million if you'll take voting boxes and machines out of certain areas. You might have a case.
Allowing all this get out the vote money in heavily Democratic districts. So that is not even really arguable. It is a case of kind of weighing the odds so that one side has a built-in advantage and using the government itself to do that.
Right.
Well, no, it would be using private money to get rid of a local government manufactured disadvantage for a group of people. The infusion of money would even it out. And again, they didn't pay to have some machines taken from here. They didn't pay for trucks to move voting machines and drop-off boxes from one district to another. They just paid for an equal number of machines and drop-off boxes wherever there's a gap. Wherever you're short, use this money for that. And they couldn't say where to use it. They just said, here's the money. They had no control over that part. It just so happens that magically, in a place like Georgia, the place where they were short of working machines and short of drop boxes in the election, were curiously enough in heavily black areas, which is why they'd have people would wait 7 hours in fucking line to vote in those areas and 20 minutes and you're out in the other areas.
It's really interesting
Yeah,
how all this has gone
is.
down, and I
Interesting.
speak mostly to you
Yeah.
about the Venezuela.
Yeah, mostly it's us in the kitchen.
That I became so involved
High five,
in
eggs.
2010, 2012 elections with True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht, a dear friend, is
Oh, so you and your felon husband who voted twice in an election illegally were involved in a Republican swaying effort. Okay, good to know. Look at
because
that. 769 likes. Fantastic. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I didn't do a reset in the last little bit. Thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe on Twitch, twitch.tv/HalSparks. Please. Helps us out. It's wonderful. You can also Venmo support. Thank you guys for the Venmos. There were a couple that came after the show last night. I was walking upstairs and my watch went bling, and I was like, you guys.
knew then, as she knows now, that there are a lot of shenanigans that go on.
I mean, you
in these
observe
elections.
them.
All right. I'm sick of this Irish hate speech.
Observed them.
2012 was it?
I was a bilingual poll watcher.
I sorry. And I know the shenanigans. They're fine people.
And I witnessed a judge, a voting judge, actually tell a Hispanic couple who and how to vote. And you cannot do that. And I caught her red-handed doing that. But
Well, she didn't know that you knew
she
Spanish.
didn't know that I knew Spanish, and I surprised her. Oh, chica. but all that to say that it's not new.
Yeah, so their vote was thrown out. They had to vote provisionally. These people didn't go, fuck off, lady. We know to vote for Biden. That it's just he's on a different page on this, the way they arranged it in our state so that it's harder to vote for the Democrats because they put everybody up and act like they're all the parties are even. The top one's the Republican, and then it's a bunch of other randos, and the Democrats on the second page. If you want to vote for Democrats, they're on the second page. You can't tell them how to vote, who to vote for. If you want to. Happy? All right.
We need to make sure that our voter integrity is something that is an American ideal, right?
No.
If we start succumbing to third world country tactics, I mean, think about it.
I mean, that is the purpose of
Oh, you mean like charging up the Capitol and trying to change the vote after you've lost? That kind of thing? Like violent insurrections? I agree. None of that. Fuck that shit.
these voter integrity laws, and that is why these voter integrity laws are being targeted by Biden and are being targeted by the Democrats, because they want to establish a system in which these kinds of measures to protect voter integrity do not exist.
They don't. And before we
No,
end,
terrible. Imagine them not wanting poll taxes or redistricting without review, or the inability for if you have a 7-hour line for people to not be handed water by by poll workers, not by campaigners.
a speedy recovery. She is unfortunately has COVID, and so sending my prayers to mommy.
Oh shit!
I'm
Really? That's you're gonna bail out the end of this stuff with the fact that her mother has COVID? Lord Almighty, Mama Shenanigans.